My dad kept forcing me to attend his wedding with his affair partner, so I exposed the dark truth about what they did to Mom. I'm 19, male, just a few months into my first year of community college. Life at home used to be steady, a simple routine shared with my mother and father, but everything changed last year. My father announced he'd been unhappy for years, and suddenly, he moved out. I learned soon after that he'd been carrying on an affair with a woman he met through work. My mother was devastated, and I was furious at how coldly he discarded our family. A messy divorce followed. My mother got the house, but she was emotionally wrecked by the betrayal. Meanwhile, my father moved into an upscale apartment with his affair partner. As if that wasn't enough, 3 weeks ago, he decided to inform me he was marrying this woman. He delivered the news like it was some grand blessing and insisted I had to attend the wedding. "You're my son, and you will be there," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. I sat across from him, silently fuming. Did he honestly think I'd celebrate his new marriage to the person who helped shatter my mother's heart? I tried to decline politely at first. I said, "Look, I don't want to cause tension, but I'm not comfortable being at the wedding." He waved that off as if I were an unruly child. "This isn't about your comfort. It's about family," he barked. Family? The hypocrisy stung. He had broken our family, replaced it with one that suited his own desires. Then he had the nerve to demand I play the role of supportive son. Over the next week, the pressure he placed on me grew. He texted, called, left voicemails loaded with guilt trips. Occasionally, he'd swing by my mother's house, where I still lived, to lecture me face to face. Sometimes his fiancée joined him, wearing a smug grin as though she was winning a competition. She'd say things like, "We want you to be happy for us," with a tone that suggested she was anything but genuine. Once, she even tried to pat me on the shoulder in a weird display of fake affection. I pulled away, telling her I wasn't interested in playing nice. That's when they resorted to dirty tricks. My father threatened to freeze my college fund if I didn't comply. "You're ungrateful," he spat during one particularly tense conversation. "After all I've done for you, the least you can do is show up for one day." Then he added something about wanting me in the wedding photographs to maintain an image of a united family. It was all so manipulative. I knew I had to push back. Still, I felt trapped. He held financial power over me, and if he cut off the college money, I wouldn't be able to pay tuition next semester. I agonized for days, discussing it with my mother. She didn't have the financial means to cover my tuition, but she refused to see me strong-armed into attending. She said, "If you want to stand up for yourself, do it. We'll figure out tuition somehow." Her support strengthened my resolve. Yet beneath the anger, I felt a growing need for a form of justice, to make them see they couldn't steamroll me and pretend their behavior was acceptable. That opportunity arrived sooner than I expected. A friend of mine who'd witnessed the affair from the sidelines mentioned something explosive. Apparently, my father and his fiancée had orchestrated a deliberate plot to isolate my mother, spreading rumors about her mental health at my father's workplace, so he could frame himself as a victim. They painted my mother as unstable, which made father's affair seem like a necessary escape, not a betrayal. That vicious lie was what drove many of father's coworkers to sympathize with him. Fueled by this new knowledge, I decided I'd do more than just refuse the wedding invite. I was going to expose them, openly, in a way they'd never forget. A week before the wedding, the tension boiled over. My father pulled into our driveway, marched up to the porch, and demanded an answer. "Are you coming or not?" His fiancée hovered in the background, arms crossed, sneering as though she'd already won. I stood there, feeling my heart pound, knowing I had a plan but still unsure how far to push it. With a steady breath, I said I'd be there, on one condition. He'd have to stop threatening me over my college fund. He smirked, visibly relieved. "That's all you needed to say. Good. I'll wire more money into your account next week," he responded, turning smugly to his fiancée. "See, I told you he'd come around." She gave me a condescending look, as if believing I'd finally accepted their twisted narrative. I stood in silence, letting them think they'd cornered me into submission. But inside, I was preparing my final move. The wedding day arrived. It took place in a tasteful garden venue, dotted with pastel flowers and white chairs. A small crowd gathered. Friends of fathers, coworkers who'd bought into his sob story, and a few extended family members who either didn't know or didn't care about the betrayal. My father wore a beaming grin, strutting around in a tailored suit, while his fiancée glowed in a lacy white gown. They looked the picture of a blissful couple. I lingered by the sidelines, wearing a plain black suit with a tie that felt too tight. Every second in that place churned my stomach, but I kept my focus on what I was about to do. During the ceremony, the officiant asked if anyone objected to their union, a stereotypical moment most people treat as a joke. But I stepped forward. The crowd hushed, and my father looked at me with wide eyes, stunned. He hissed, "What are you doing?" My hands trembled slightly. My heart hammered, but I pushed forward, voice clear. "I object because this marriage is built on lies." Gasps rippled across the guests. My father's fiancée stiffened, her expression darkening. My father tried to cut me off, but I spoke louder, projecting so everyone could hear. "You both destroyed my mother by lying, cheating, and then making up stories about her." He claimed she was the one who was unfaithful. But guess what? He's the cheater who spread rumors at his workplace, telling people she was mentally unstable to justify his affair. The hush turned into a horrified murmur. Some jaws dropped. The officiant looked at me, unsure how to proceed. Father's fiancée lunged forward, trying to yank the mic from me. I held firm and continued. "You even threatened to pull my college fund if I didn't come here to fake support. Did you think I'd stay silent forever?" She glared at me with venom, hissing, "You ungrateful brat." Father tried to regain composure, but the damage was done. I'd exposed the darkest part of their deception right there in front of all their so-called supporters. The father's coworkers exchanged looks, realizing they'd been fed a pack of lies. A distant relative of ours covered her mouth in shock. The tension was electric, heavy with disbelief. I saw the officiant quietly step back, as if wanting no part in the drama. As I finished, I locked eyes with my father, who stood frozen in embarrassment. He bared his teeth, whispering, "You'll regret this." But I no longer cared about his threats. My chest felt lighter. The flurry of whispers and phone cameras pointed at us confirmed the spectacle was well underway. Finally, Father's fiancée found her voice, screeching at me for ruining her big day, calling me selfish. My father tried to salvage the situation, barking at the guests to remain seated, insisting we had a family misunderstanding. But it was too late. Many guests already began rising, stepping away, not wanting to be part of this twisted ceremony. Within minutes, what should have been a neat, picture-perfect event turned into chaos. I quietly stepped aside, letting them flail in the wreckage of their exposed lies. As I walked away from the altar area, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives who'd seen or heard the outburst in real time. Some offered congratulations for speaking up. Others, presumably Father's allies, called me out as disrespectful or heartless. I slipped into a side path of the garden, refusing to answer any calls. I needed to process the adrenaline still coursing through me. Suddenly, I heard my father's voice behind me, low and seething. "Stop right there." He grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around. He accused me of ruining his life, threatened again to cut off my tuition, and even said he'd sue me for defamation if I ever repeated those claims. I refused to buckle. "Go ahead," I spat back. "You'll have to prove in court that you didn't spread rumors about Mother. I have enough witnesses, plus documents from Mother's lawyer that detail your workplace gossip. You think this'll end well for you?" He hesitated, a flicker of fear crossing his face. He knew I was serious. His fiancée then stomped up, shrieking that she'd pressed charges for emotional distress. She demanded an apology, calling me names. I just stared at her, unmoved. "You kept pushing me to come here. Now you have your answer." That's when Father tried a final intimidation tactic, stepping closer, voice dripping with malice. "You'll never see a dime from me again. I'll make sure your mother and you regret this." I felt a surge of righteous anger. "You already broke this family," I said, meeting his gaze coldly. "You threatened me into coming. You lied about Mother's mental health. Now the truth's out. You have no power left here." Meanwhile, Guests were scattering. Some approached us worried. Others drifted away, not wanting to be involved. A friend of Father's fiancée tried to calm her down, but she shrugged him off. A small group circled, phones raised, capturing the meltdown. Father realized the scene was being recorded. He turned away, cursing under his breath. A security guard from the venue appeared, gently suggesting we move this confrontation outside. Father barked at him to mind his own business, but the guard persisted, warning that if we didn't de-escalate, he'd call the authorities. I took the opportunity to slip away, heading toward the parking lot. My father yelled after me, something about how I'd regret crossing him. I tuned him out, focusing on the relief that now weighed on my heart. It felt liberating to shine light on their lies in front of everyone they tried to impress. By the time I reached my car, my phone buzzed with new messages. Word had already traveled beyond the wedding. A coworker of Father's texted me, saying, "Wow, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Let me know if your mother needs help clarifying anything at work." Another relative wrote, "This is insane. I wish your father had told the truth from the beginning." For the first time in months, I sensed genuine support from people who'd previously believed my father's narrative. When I got home, Mother was waiting. She didn't attend the wedding, of course, but I'd texted her a brief warning about what I was about to do. She looked anxious. I told her the story, step by step. Despite her shock, she hugged me. Whispering she was proud, I stood up for her. We spent the evening processing everything. She worried about Father's threats, but I assured her I had documented proof, emails, statements, and a draft from Mother's lawyer about the rumors Father spread. If Father tried anything, we'd be ready. We both felt a surge of courage we hadn't felt since the divorce began. Over the next few days, the fallout from the wedding fiasco was colossal. Photos and videos from the event circulated among Father's friends and coworkers. He tried to spin the story as me being a vindictive child manipulated by Mother, but too many people had heard the truth. Some still took his side, but he lost a large chunk of his support base at work. According to one of my relatives, Father's new wife was humiliated beyond words. She canceled what was supposed to be a honeymoon trip, furious that her big day was overshadowed by scandal. My father did attempt to freeze my college fund. True to his word, he pulled the money from the account he'd set up for me. But Mother and I expected this. We reached out to a local community organization that offered scholarships for children in broken families. With my decent grades, I managed to secure enough funding to stay in school. The rest, we pieced together from Mother's part-time job and a small grant. It wasn't easy, but we made do. Meanwhile, Father's threats of suing me or Mother never materialized. His own legal counsel likely warned him it would do more harm than good to relitigate an obvious affair and defamation allegations in public court records. Months later, Father's new marriage settled into an uneasy routine. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that he and his wife still blame me for ruining their perfect wedding. They claim I attacked them out of spite. But that mutual acquaintance also told me Father's workplace had launched a quiet investigation into his conduct. Though I'm not sure of the details, it's rumored he was passed over for a promotion he'd been vying for. Seems the management didn't appreciate an employee airing personal dramas and slandering others in the office. My life, on the other hand, feels more authentic. I don't pretend to respect a man who betrayed us. Yes, money's tighter now, but Mother and I have rediscovered what it means to stand by each other. The community college route might be longer, but I take pride in paying my way bit by bit. Whenever I reflect on Father's meltdown, I realize I'd do it again if given the chance. Sure, it was dramatic to object at the wedding. Some might call it petty. But he left me no choice, cornering me with financial threats. By exposing the dark truth about what they did to my mother, I took back control. I refused to let him rewrite history and parade around like a saint marrying his soulmate. The price for telling the truth was high, but seeing Father and his new wife furious and humiliated, that was the closure I needed.